Sophia Reyes pulled nervously at the hem of her dark green silk dress. She had spent too much money on it, but she had told herself it was worth it for her cousin's big wedding. Sitting alone at table 22, far away from the main table near the dance floor, she sipped her champagne and tried to push away the lonely feeling that had followed her ever since she became a single mother. Across the bright ballroom of the Golden Crest Hotel, her 5-year-old daughter, Lily, was having the best time of her life. She was spinning and dancing with the other flower girls, while Sophia's aunt kept a close watch. At least one of them was having fun. "You look like you're planning an escape," said a deep voice from behind her. "I've been thinking about the back door myself." Sophia turned around so fast that her champagne almost spilled. She found herself looking up at Nathan Cole, her direct boss at Atlas Publishing, where she had worked as a mid-level editor for 3 years. He was tall, with warm brown eyes and a strong jaw that looked like it belonged on the cover of a magazine. He was the last person she expected to see at her cousin Claire's wedding. "Mr. Cole?" she said, feeling her cheeks go red. She was suddenly very aware of her smudged lip color and the tiny rip in her dress she had fixed that morning with a safety pin. "What are you doing here?" He smiled, and Sophia noticed how it changed his usually serious face. "Nathan, please, we're not at work." He pointed toward the bride and groom. "Ryan and I were roommates at Princeton. I'm surprised we haven't crossed paths at their events before." Sophia felt her face grow warm. Ryan, her cousin's new husband, had always lived in a world very different from her simple life in Queens. That Nathan Cole, the famous publishing CEO and rumored billionaire at only 35 years old, was part of that world should not have been a surprise. "May I?" he asked, gesturing to the empty chair beside her at the otherwise empty table. She nodded, suddenly feeling very aware of everything around her. Nathan had barely said 10 words to her in 3 years, even though her office was just 2 floors below his. They had shared elevator rides a few times, and she'd seen them at company meetings, where he was always polite but distant, surrounded by a wall of senior executives. "You're Sophia Reyes, right? Acquisitions and development?" He sat down with easy confidence. His custom suit made every other man in the room look like they were wearing borrowed clothes. "You know who I am?" She could not hide her surprise. His smile grew wider, showing a small dimple in his right cheek that she had never noticed before. "I make it my business to know the people behind our best titles. The Desert Rose series you brought in last year is beating sales goals by 28%. Sophia blinked, for a moment unable to speak. She had fought for months to get that romance series approved, fully believing it would connect with readers, even though the author was unknown. That Nathan not only knew about it, but had been watching its numbers sent a wave of professional pride through her chest. "Thank you. I believed in those books." She took another sip of champagne to calm herself. "But that still doesn't explain why you're sitting at the lonely singles table with me instead of up there with Ryan and the important guests." Nathan's expression shifted. Something soft and honest crossed his face before his usual calm returned. "Maybe I'm tired of people who only see the CEO, not the person." Before Sophia could respond, a small commotion broke out near the edge of the dance floor. Her daughter Lily was standing completely still, her flower girl dress spotted with what looked like red wine. Tears were building in her big brown eyes as the waiter apologized over and over. "Excuse me," Sophia said, already pushing back her chair, but Nathan touched her arm gently. "Let me," he said, reaching into his jacket pocket and pulling out a white handkerchief with his initials on it. "I have nieces. I know how to handle this." Before she could say anything, he walked over to Lily with long, easy steps.
Sophia watched in complete surprise as the powerful CEO of Atlas Publishing got down to her daughter's level, made a coin appear from behind Lily's ear, a magic trick that made the little girl's eyes go wide, and then offered the handkerchief with a playful wink. Within a few minutes, Lily was laughing as Nathan gently dabbed at her dress. When they came back to the table, Lily was chatting happily about how Mr. Nathan had told her that the stain was actually invisible ink that only brave flower girls could see. "Mom, can I go back to Aunt Rosa? We're having a dance contest," Lily asked, the whole accident already forgotten the way children forget things so easily. "Of course, sweetheart. Be careful with your dress." As Lily skipped away, Sophia turned to Nathan, who had sat back down beside her. "Thank you for that. You're surprisingly good with children. My sister has twins, 7 years old, and—"
Sophia's evening changed at a surprising speed. Within an hour of Nathan's whispered suggestion, she found herself deep inside a performance as his supposed wife. What had started as a shield against pity became something more complicated with every passing minute. Nathan played his role with natural ease, his hand resting lightly on her back as he guided her through conversations with some of New York's most important people, introducing her as the brilliant editor who keeps Atlas Publishing's bestseller list packed. Throughout the evening, Sophia found herself drawn into his warmth, his humor, and the effortless way he made her feel seen. "You're surprisingly good at this," she said quietly as they danced, careful to keep a safe distance, despite his hand warm against her waist. "At dancing?" His eyes crinkled with amusement. "At pretending?" She studied his face, looking for the performance to crack. "Most CEOs I've met couldn't act their way out of a paper bag." He spun her gently, bringing her back just a little closer than before. "Who says I'm pretending?" The question hung between them, full of meaning that Sophia did not dare look at too closely. She changed the subject. "Your toast was beautiful. I didn't know you and Ryan were so close." Something shifted in Nathan's expression, a shadow of emotion she couldn't name. "We were once. Time and different paths have a way of creating distance, even between old friends." "What changed?" He paused. "Success changes people around you. They either expect things from you, or they assume you've become someone different when you haven't." His voice dropped lower. "That's why tonight feels good. You don't treat me like I'm made of money." "That's because I watched you spill an entire coffee on yourself when the elevator jerked between floors last Christmas." His surprised laugh was warm and real. "You remember that?" It's hard to forget the CEO of Atlas Publishing cursing under his breath while wearing a Christmas sweater with a reindeer on it. Nathan's smile softened into something genuine. "See, that's exactly what I mean." As the dance ended, Sophia spotted Lily yawning widely near the dessert table. "I should get her to bed. It's way past her bedtime." Nathan nodded and quietly passed her a keycard. "Suite 1214. Take your time. I'll cover if anyone asks." "Thank you," she said, knowing the words were not enough for all the small kindnesses he had shown her and Lily throughout the evening. 30 minutes later, after settling a sleepy Lily in one of the 2 bedrooms of the suite, Sophia stood in the beautiful living area of Nathan's hotel accommodation, feeling very out of place. The suite was bigger than her entire apartment in Queens, with tall windows looking out over the glittering city skyline. She took off her heels and walked to the window, pressing her palm against the cool glass as she tried to understand how her night had turned into this. A soft knock at the door startled her. She opened it to find Nathan, his bow tie undone and hanging loose. "Sorry to interrupt," he said, standing in the hallway instead of walking in. "I forgot my overnight bag." "Of course." She stepped aside to let him in, suddenly very aware of her bare feet and slightly messy hair. Nathan picked up a leather bag from the closet, then stopped, seeming reluctant to leave. "How's Lily?" "Out like a light.
She thinks we're sleeping in a princess castle." He smiled, but something guarded had appeared in his expression, the easy warmth from the dance floor fading a little. "Nathan, why are you really doing all this?" Sophia asked, unable to hold the question in any longer. "The pretending, the sweet, it's generous, but you're wondering what I want in return?" Nathan set down his bag, his face hard to read. "Would you believe me if I said I was simply being kind? In my experience, powerful men aren't kind without a reason." Something hardened in his eyes. "That says more about the men you've known than about me." Sophia crossed her arms. "You can't blame me for being careful. You're my boss, Nathan. This whole situation is already complicated." "Is that why you've turned down every promotion I approved for you over the last 2 years?" Sophia stared, genuinely shocked. "What are you talking about?" Nathan ran a hand through his dark hair. 3 times, Sophia. 3 times I approved moving you to senior editor with a serious salary increase, and 3 times you declined without even speaking to HR about it." She felt like the floor had shifted beneath her. "I have never been offered a single promotion at Atlas, not once." The silence between them grew heavy. His understanding arrived in both of their minds at the same moment. "Victor Chase," they said together. Victor Chase, editorial director, the man directly above Sophia in Atlas Publishing's structure, a man who had made his dislike of her clear from her first day, a man who had taken credit for her work more than once, and a man who happened to be Nathan's oldest friend.
"He told me you didn't want to move up," Nathan said slowly, a muscle tightening in his jaw. "That you preferred your current position because of Lily, because of the flexible hours." Sophia felt a cold anger building inside her. "And you believed him without ever speaking to me directly?" "He's been with Atlas since before I took over. We've known each other 20 years. Nathan's expression darkened. "But that ends Monday morning." "What does that mean for his career at Atlas?" Nathan's voice was flat and final. "I've suspected for a while that Victor has been controlling situations to benefit himself, but this goes too far." Sophia sat down on the edge of the sofa, overwhelmed. "This explains so much. The way he's been moving my projects to other editors. Do you know he reassigned the Desert Rose author to another team just last week after I spent over a year building that relationship?" Nathan's expression moved from anger to something more focused. "Is that why you called in sick last Friday? The first sick day you've taken in 3 years?" Sophia felt heat rise to her cheeks. "I needed time to process. That series meant everything to me." Nathan sat beside her, leaving careful space between them. "I had no idea this was happening, but it stops now." He paused, then added more quietly, "For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I should have looked more closely." The honesty in his voice caught her completely off guard. This wasn't the distant executive she saw in company meetings or the charming pretend husband from the reception. This was a different person entirely. A man taking real responsibility, showing genuine regret. "Why do you care so much?" she asked before she could stop herself. "I'm just one editor among dozens." Nathan looked away, his profile sharp against the city lights. "Because I started as an editor too, before the business degrees and the corporate ladder. I know what it means to love books, to fight for stories you believe in." He turned back to her, his gaze steady and serious. "And because I've watched your work from a distance, Sophia. The authors you find, the manuscripts you stand behind, they're always something special." The unexpected praise left her speechless. Before she could think of what to say, a small voice came from the bedroom doorway. "Mommy, I had a bad dream." Lily stood there in her pajamas, holding the stuffed rabbit she had slept with since she was a baby. Her eyes went wide when she saw Nathan. "Mr. Magic Man, did you come for a sleepover too?" Sophia tensed, but Nathan smoothly lowered himself to Lily's level. "No, sweetheart, I just stopped by to make sure you and your mom were comfortable. I heard you had a bad dream."
Lily nodded seriously. There was a dragon under the bed. That is very serious business, Nathan agreed, matching her grave tone. I happen to know that dragons are afraid of brave flower girls, especially ones who know magic tricks. I don't know any magic, Lily whispered, but her fear was already giving way to curiosity. Yes, you do. Remember this? Nathan reached into his pocket and produced a coin, the same trick he had used earlier. As he patiently taught Lily the simple trick, Sophia watched them with a tight feeling growing in her chest. Her daughter, who was usually shy around strangers and especially around men, was giggling and trying to copy Nathan's moves with clumsy determination. What surprised Sophia most was Nathan's patient gentleness, the way he encouraged every attempt with real warmth instead of being condescending. When Lily finally got the trick, or at least a 5-year-old's version of it, her face lit up with pure joy. Now the dragon will be scared of me. Absolutely terrified. Want me to check under the bed just to be sure? After a thorough dragon inspection and 2 more demonstrations of her new magical skill, Lily let Sophia tuck her back into bed. When Sophia returned to the living room, she found Nathan standing by the window again, his expression thoughtful. Thank you for that. You didn't have to be so kind to her. It wasn't kindness. I enjoyed it. He turned to face her. She's a remarkable child. She is. Sophia paused, then added, honestly, it was probably for the best. Leo wasn't exactly father material. She paused, searching for the right words. Selfish, convinced his big break as a musician was just around the corner, while I paid every single bill. She gave a short, bitter laugh. The irony is, he finally got that record deal 6 months after he walked out. I saw his face on a billboard on 5th Avenue last year. Understanding arrived in Nathan's eyes. Your ex is Leo Carter? Sophia nodded, surprised. You know his music? My niece has every one of his songs memorized. Nathan sat beside her again. No wonder you're careful around men with big dreams. The observation was too accurate for comfort. Sophia changed the subject. It's getting late. You should go before people start talking. Let them talk. His gaze held hers. Unless you want me to leave. The question hung between them, full of unspoken meaning. For one reckless moment, Sophia considered asking him to stay, not as her pretend husband, not as her boss, but as the man who had shown her glimpses of something real throughout this strange evening. Instead, she stood up, putting some distance between them. This has been unexpected, but we should remember who we are on Monday morning. Nathan rose as well, picking up his overnight bag. At the door, he stopped. You know, you never answered my question from before about whether I was really pretending. Before Sophia could respond, he was gone, leaving her alone with the question that would keep her awake until the early hours and the growing sense that this single night of pretending had opened up feelings that neither of them had planned for.
Monday morning arrived with the sharp clarity of reality. Sophia walked into Atlas Publishing's bright lobby with Lily's sticky goodbye kiss still warm on her cheek, and her mind spinning with everything that had happened over the weekend. She had spent Sunday going back and forth between replaying every moment with Nathan and firmly reminding herself that it had all been an act, a practical arrangement that was now over. The elevator doors opened to reveal Victor Chase himself, his usual smug expression souring when he saw her. "Recovered from your illness, I see?" She stepped inside, refusing to be rattled. "Good morning, Victor. Yes, thank you for your concern." He made a short sound, not bothering to hide his contempt. "I'll need the Carson manuscript on my desk by noon. The marketing team has questions." The Carson manuscript was another one of her finds that Victor had taken for himself. "Of course, though the author did specifically ask for my feedback on the new chapters." Victor's smile tightened. "I'm sure you can forward any relevant notes to me." The elevator stopped at the editorial floor. As Sophia moved to step out, Victor added, "Oh, and the quarterly review meeting has been moved. Cole wants all department heads in the conference room at 10.
Something in his tone caught her attention. Just department heads? Victor's smile turned unpleasant. Don't worry yourself about executive matters, Sophia. The doors closed on his condescending face, leaving Sophia seething alone in the hallway. This man had been working against her career for years, and she had let it happen, partly from fear of causing trouble as a single mother, and partly because she had never had proof until Nathan told her the truth. At exactly 9:57 a.m., Sophia's phone chimed with a text from an unknown number. Conference room, 10 a.m., don't be late. N. Her heart jumped as she stared at the message. How had Nathan gotten her personal number, and why was he calling her to a meeting for department heads only? At 9:01 a.m., Sophia slipped into the conference room where Atlas's leadership team was already seated. Victor's face showed shock, then barely hidden fury at seeing her walk in. "Ms. Reyes, thank you for joining us," Nathan said, his voice professional and without any of the warmth she had come to know. "Please take a seat." She chose the only open chair, directly across from Victor, whose eyes were now moving quickly between her and Nathan. "Before we begin," Nathan said, his gaze sweeping the room with quiet authority, "I want to announce some changes effective immediately. Victor Chase will be transitioning out of his role as editorial director." A stunned silence fell over the room. Victor's face went pale. "In the interim, Sophia Reyes will take on his responsibilities while we look at permanent restructuring." Sophia sat completely still, sure she had misheard. Across the table, Victor half rose from his chair. "This is outrageous. On what grounds?" "On the grounds of deliberately blocking company operations, withholding advancement opportunities from qualified employees, and providing false information to senior management." Nathan's tone was ice cold. "My office has put together a full report, which HR will go over with you after this meeting." Sophia sat motionless as quiet whispers broke out around her. Nathan continued the meeting with calm efficiency, covering quarterly goals and marketing plans as if he hadn't just upended everything. When the meeting ended, Nathan asked her to stay. As the room cleared, Victor stood in the doorway, his face dark with rage. "You'll regret this, Cole. Both of you will." Then the door closed, and they were alone. Sophia turned to Nathan. "What just happened?" He loosened his tie slightly, the only sign that the confrontation had cost him anything. "Justice, I hope, though I probably should have warned you first." "Probably," she kept her voice steady with effort. "You just put a target on my back in front of the entire leadership team. Victor has powerful connections in this industry." "So do I." Nathan's expression softened slightly. "Sophia, you earned this promotion 3 times over. The work you've done despite Victor's interference proves you are more than ready for it." "That's not the point." She pressed her fingers to her temples, feeling a headache building. "This looks like favoritism, Nathan. People will talk." "Let them." "Easy for you to say. You're not the single mother who suddenly seems to be climbing the ladder by other means." The words came out harsher than she intended, and she immediately regretted them. Nathan's expression closed off. "Is that what you think this is?" he asked quietly. "No," Sophia said quickly, "but it's what others will think." "Which is exactly why I asked HR to conduct a full review of Victor's communications before making any announcement." Nathan slid a folder across the table. "Evidence of his pattern, documented and dated. This promotion is based entirely on your work. Anyone who says otherwise will find themselves in a very uncomfortable conversation with our legal team." Sophia opened the folder, stunned by how much had been gathered in just one day. "How did you get all of this so quickly?" "I've had doubts about Victor for months. Your situation gave me the reason to look closely." He paused. "This has nothing to do with this weekend, Sophia. I give you my word." Something in his honest expression made her want to believe him. "Thank you," But this still creates practical challenges. I have a 5-year-old daughter, Nathan. The editorial director position requires late nights, weekend work, travel. All flexible, he said, leaning forward. Atlas needs to do better for working parents anyway. You can set the example. Before she could respond, Nathan's assistant knocked and entered. Mr. Cole, your 11 is waiting, and Miss Reyes, HR would like to see you about the transition. The moment broke. Sophia gathered her things. At the door, she stopped. For what it's worth, thank you for believing in me. Nathan's smile was brief but real. Prove me right, Sophia. That's all the thanks I need.
The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. True to his word, Nathan had made sure her new role came with flexibility for Lily's schedule. Though the work still left her exhausted most evenings, she saw very little of the CEO directly, their contact limited to formal meetings where he kept strict professionalism. 3 weeks into her promotion, Sophia was working late reviewing contracts for a major deal when a knock came at her new office door. Nathan stood in the doorway, jacket gone and sleeves rolled to his forearms. "Still here?" he asked. "Where's Lily tonight?" "Sleepover, at her cousin's." Sophia put down her pen, suddenly aware of how quiet the executive floor was. "I'm using the free time to catch up." "Have you eaten?" "A granola bar around 6. "That's not dinner." He straightened up. "There's a place around the corner that stays open late. Come on." She hesitated. "Nathan, I don't think that's a good idea." "It's just food, Sophia, between colleagues." His expression remained carefully calm. Against her better judgment, she agreed. 20 minutes later, they sat in a quiet corner booth of a small restaurant, surrounded by the warm smell of herbs and spices. Away from the office, some of the tension between them eased as they talked about books and industry news. "You've done remarkable work these past weeks," Nathan said as they finished their meal. "The Morrison deal alone would have justified your promotion." Sophia allowed herself to feel proud. "It feels good to finally have the authority to follow my own instincts." Speaking of authority, Nathan set down his fork, his expression becoming serious. "There's something you need to know. Victor has been meeting with executives at Pinnacle Press." Sophia's stomach tightened. Pinnacle was Atlas's biggest competitor. "You think he's feeding them information?" "I know he is," Nathan's voice hardened. "He's going after your authors specifically, trying to convince them to break their contracts and move over there." "He can't do that. His severance agreement has a non-compete clause." "Yes, and he's ignoring it entirely." Nathan paused, briefly touching her hand before pulling back. "I'm sorry to bring this to you, but you needed to know what we're dealing with." The simple touch of his hand on hers lingered like something warm. Sophia forced herself to focus on the threat. "What do we do?" "We fight back, starting with the author retreat this weekend in the Adirondacks." Sophia blinked. "That's in 3 days. I can't possibly—" "Bring Lily," Nathan said simply. "The resort has great childcare, and this retreat is critical. If Victor is making moves, we need to counter them right away." "Nathan, I can't just—" "I'm not asking as your boss right now," he said softly. "I'm asking as someone who believes in you. We need you there." The way he said "we" sent a complicated feeling through her. 3 days in the mountains with Nathan, surrounded by authors and industry people, with Lily in tow. The idea was both exciting and terrifying. "I'll need to make arrangements," she said at last. His answering smile was worth every headache she knew would come. Friday afternoon found Sophia and Lily checking into Pine Ridge Lodge, a beautiful resort wrapped in the color of autumn mountains. The welcome reception was already underway in the main hall, leaving them to navigate the check-in alone. "I'm sorry, Miss Reyes, but we don't have a reservation under your name," the front desk clerk said with polished regret. "That's impossible. Atlas Publishing booked a block of rooms. I should be on the list." The woman checked again, shaking her head. "All the Atlas rooms are assigned, but there's nothing under Walsh, and we're fully booked this weekend." Lily tugged at Sophia's blazer. "Mom, I'm hungry. You promised dinner." Sophia felt a headache building fast. After a rushed day of preparation and a long drive with a restless 5-year-old, this was the last thing she needed. Before she could ask about alternatives, she heard a familiar voice behind her.
What seems to be the problem? Nathan walked over from the lobby area, looking unfairly good in dark trousers and a blue sweater that suited him perfectly. There's a mistake with my reservation, Sophia explained, keeping her voice professional. Apparently, I don't have a room. Nathan's brow furrowed. That's impossible. I confirmed every booking myself yesterday. A dark suspicion formed in Sophia's mind. Or perhaps it wasn't a mistake at all, Sophia said quietly, for Nathan's ears only. Victor still has contacts in the admin team. Understanding darkened Nathan's expression. He turned back to the clerk with renewed purpose. What about my room, the lakeside suite? Yes, the presidential suite, 2 bedrooms. Nathan nodded. Perfect. Ms. Reyes and her daughter will be staying there with me. Please have her luggage brought up. Nathan, no, Sophia protested once the clerk had stepped away. We can't share a suite. It's not appropriate. It's a 2-bedroom suite with a living area bigger than my first apartment. Completely appropriate. Unless you'd prefer to drive back to the city tonight. Lily, who had been listening quietly, perked up with sudden excitement. Are we having a sleepover with Mr. Magic Man? Nathan's serious face melted into a warm smile as he crouched down to her level. Hello, brave flower girl. I heard you might teach me some new tricks this weekend. As Lily launched enthusiastically into a description of a card trick she had been practicing, Sophia watched them both with a growing feeling that was equal parts gratitude and something more complicated. Nathan had just neatly moved us into an arrangement that would definitely raise questions among our colleagues. What worried her more was how natural it felt, the 3 of them together, like some kind of small, accidental family, like something she had stopped letting herself want a long time ago. All settled then, Nathan said, straightening up and offering Lily her hand. Shall we go find some dinner? As they walked toward the restaurant, Sophia had the feeling of being watched. She glanced back and saw a man staring at them intently from across the lobby. A man she recognized instantly from company photos, even though they had never spoken face to face. Victor Chase had just arrived at the retreat, and the look in his eyes promised that her already complicated weekend was about to become dangerous.
Don't look now, but we have company, Sophia murmured to Nathan as they settled at a corner table in the resort's restaurant. She tilted her head toward the entrance, where Victor stood scanning the room. Nathan's expression hardened for just a moment before he composed himself. Let him watch. We have nothing to hide. Before Nathan could say more, a tall woman with elegant silver hair approached their table, her face lighting up with genuine pleasure. Nathan Cole, I was beginning to think you avoided the social part of these events entirely. She turned her warm smile to Sophia. And you must be the new editorial director I've been hearing about, Sophia Reyes. Yes, Sophia nearly lost her breath. The woman standing before her was Margaret Ashford, the literary royalty, the best-selling author who had put Atlas Publishing on the map 15 years ago. Her historical fiction series had sold over 20 million copies worldwide. Miss Ashford, it's an incredible honor. Your Bellstone Chronicles inspired me to go into publishing. Margaret waved away the formality. Margaret, please. And who's this young lady? She asked, smiling at Lily. I'm Lily Reyes, and I know magic, the little girl announced proudly. Margaret laughed with real delight. What a lovely coincidence. I'm in desperate need of some magic for my new book. Perhaps you could help. As Lily eagerly agreed, Margaret looked between Sophia and Nathan with sharp, knowing eyes. You make a lovely family. How refreshing to see Atlas executives who understand the importance of balance in life. Before Sophia could correct the misunderstanding, Margaret had invited herself to join them for dinner, effectively claiming the meal as an informal business meeting that kept other retreat guests, including a fuming Victor, at a distance. Throughout the meal, Sophia found herself increasingly impressed by how naturally Nathan handled Lily's presence, cutting her chicken into small pieces without being asked, drawing her into conversation as easily as he discussed publishing trends with Margaret. Your daughter is absolutely lovely, Margaret commented as dessert arrived, and quite taken by your husband, if I may say so.
Sophia nearly choked on her water. "Oh, Nathan isn't—" "We are colleagues," Nathan interrupted smoothly, his eyes meeting Sophia's with a silent message, "though I consider myself very fortunate to know both of these remarkable women." Margaret's expression stayed skeptical but polite, and she graciously changed the subject to her upcoming manuscript. By the time they said goodnight, she had invited Sophia to breakfast the following morning to discuss a major change in her publishing plans, a private meeting that would normally have gone directly to Nathan. "That was quite an achievement," Nathan observed as they walked Lily back to the suite. The little girl was skipping ahead, within sight but out of earshot. "Margaret doesn't warm to new executives quickly." "She's extraordinary. I've admired her work for years." "I'm Manor," exclaimed Sophia. "I'm sorry. What did either of us achieve?" "She thinks we're married." "You were about to correct her," Nathan said casually, hands in his pockets. "Wasn't that the right thing to do?" "Strategically," he paused, "perhaps not. Victor was watching the entire time. If Margaret Ashford believes we're a pair, that makes your position considerably stronger." "So we're back to pretending?" Sophia couldn't keep the edge from her voice. Nathan stopped walking and turned to face her fully. "Is that what you think I'm doing? Pretending?" The directness in his gaze made her heart jump. Before she could respond, Lily called out. She had spotted the indoor pool through glass doors at the end of the corridor. Later that night, with Lily asleep in the suite's second bedroom, Sophia found herself alone with Nathan in the large living area. He stood by the windows, looking out at the moonlit lake, a glass of whiskey in hand, looking thoughtful. "You never answered my question about whether you think I'm pretending." Sophia approached carefully, keeping a safe distance. "I don't know what to think, Nathan. One moment you're my boss, the next you're teaching my daughter magic tricks and charming literary legends on my behalf." He turned to face her, his expression open in a way she rarely saw. "Have you considered that all of those things might be equally real?" "Why?" The question escaped before she could stop it. "Why me? Why us?" Nathan set down his glass and stepped a little closer. "Because from the moment I saw you sitting alone at that wedding, something settled into place, something I hadn't been looking for but couldn't ignore. The way you fight for your authors, the way you've raised Lily on your own, the way you never once asked for special treatment, even while Victor was working against you. You're extraordinary, Sophia." She shook her head, stepping back slightly. "This is exactly what I was afraid of. Our professional relationship is complicated enough without adding personal feelings." "Is that all you're afraid of? Professional complications?" His voice softened. "Or are you afraid of trusting someone again after Leo left you alone to raise Lily?" The accuracy stung. "That's not fair." "No, it isn't," he agreed, closing the distance between them slowly. "But hiding from something real because we're afraid of being hurt, that's a choice." Sophia felt the walls she had so carefully built beginning to weaken. "Nathan, whatever this is between us, it's complicated by so many things. My promotion, your position, Victor's vendetta, Lily." "I know," he said, leaning against the counter, "but I think it's worth working through the complications, unless you honestly don't feel anything for me beyond professional respect." The direct question demanded honesty. "You know that's not true," she admitted. The admission changed the air between them. Nathan set down his glass and stepped a careful step toward her. "Sophia." A sharp knock at the door interrupted him. He checked the peephole, and his expression darkened before he opened it to a stone-faced security guard. "Mr. Cole, I apologize for the late hour. Someone has accessed the conference room where tomorrow's contract negotiations are set up and appears to have taken photos of confidential materials." Nathan's posture shifted instantly to full CEO mode. "I need to handle this," he told Sophia. "Stay here, lock the door. I'll be back as soon as I can." After he left, Sophia was too unsettled to sleep. Around midnight, she opened her laptop to check her work email and found a new message from an unfamiliar address. Subject line, "Proof of Cole's game." Against her better judgment, she opened it. Inside were several photos clearly taken through the restaurant windows with a long-range camera lens. There she was with Nathan and Lily, looking for all the world like a family. The accompanying note was brief but devastating. Did he tell you about the bet? Ask Cole about the Princeton wager. Ask him how much money he stands to win by getting you into his bed. A friend. Sophia stared at the screen, feeling sick. A bet. Could Nathan's interest in her really be part of some old college game? It seemed ridiculous, and yet doubt slipped in like a cold draft. How else to explain the sudden attention from a man who had barely acknowledged her for 3 years? Her phone buzzed with a text from Nathan. Security issue resolved. Victor caught on camera and removed from the property. We'll explain everything in the morning. Sleep well. Sophia put the phone down without responding, the email's ugly suggestion echoing in her mind. She needed answers, but confronting Nathan now, in the middle of the night in a suite they were sharing, felt unwise. Better to wait for morning. But sleep would not come. By dawn, Sophia had made a decision. She woke Lily early, packed their things, and left a brief note for Nathan, explaining that they had decided to return to the city for a family matter. It wasn't entirely a lie. Her family's emotional well-being was very much at stake.
The drive back to Queens gave Sophia time to think about her growing feelings for Nathan and about the disturbing accusation in that email. Part of her wanted to dismiss it as Victor's desperate attempt to destroy her, but another part, the part that had been left behind by Leo, whispered that men with power played by different rules. By Monday morning, she had resolved to speak to Nathan directly. She arrived at the office early, steeling herself for the conversation, only to find an urgent message asking for her immediate presence at a special board meeting. Hard pounding, she walked into the boardroom to find the entire executive team assembled, minus Nathan. The chief financial officer, a calm woman in her 60s, addressed the somber group. For those who haven't heard, Nathan Cole was involved in a serious car accident returning from the Adirondack retreat early yesterday morning. He is currently in intensive care at City General Hospital. The room tilted around Sophia as the details came through her shock. Black ice on a mountain road, a guardrail failure, critical but stable condition. All she could think was that he had been driving back early, possibly because of her abrupt departure. The next 3 days passed in a blur of meetings, failed hospital visits where she was turned away for not being family, and sleepless nights filled with regret. She had never even given Nathan a chance to explain the accusation in that email. On Thursday afternoon, her assistant announced an unexpected visitor. "Ms. Reyes, there's a Ms. Cole here to see you. She says she is Nathan's sister." Sophia looked up to find a woman with Nathan's same dark hair and steady eyes, though her expression held none of his warmth. "Diana Cole," the woman introduced herself. "My brother regained consciousness this morning and has been asking for you, quite insistently, in fact." Relief flooded through her, followed quickly by apprehension. "He's awake?" "The doctors say he will recover fully. Apparently, my brother is too stubborn to do otherwise before resolving whatever situation exists between you two." Diana's assessing gaze reminded Sophia of being examined. "He mentioned something about a misunderstanding involving Victor Chase and an old college bet." Sophia's stomach dropped. "So it's true." Diana's expression softened slightly. "I think you should hear the full story from Nathan himself. My car is waiting downstairs." 45 minutes later, Sophia stood hesitantly in the doorway of a private hospital room. Nathan looked pale against the white sheets, a bandage on his forehead, one arm in a cast, but unmistakably alive and alert. "Sophia!" Her name on his lips sounded both a prayer and a relief. "You came." She approached the bed carefully.
Your sister can be very persuasive. She has that effect on people. Usually she's scaring them away from me, not bringing me to my bedside. A faint version of his usual smile appeared. Nathan, about the email. The bet. He closed his eyes briefly. Victor's final attempt to drive a wedge between us. Clever of him to use something with a grain of truth rather than a complete lie. So there was a bet. 20 years ago, in college, Thomas and Victor and I made ridiculous bets about everything. One night, drunk and stupid, we made a wager about who would be first to date someone from every floor of the university library. He met her eyes directly. Juvenile, disrespectful, and something I am not proud of, but it ended there, Sophia. I never followed through on it, and it has absolutely nothing to do with you. Then why would Victor? Because he knew it would sound believable enough to make you doubt me. He reached for her hand with the uninjured one. Sophia, I have spent 3 years watching you fight for the authors you believe in, seeing your integrity and your talent. The feelings I've developed for you have nothing to do with old history and everything to do with who you are. The honesty in his eyes made her want to trust it. 3 years, and you barely spoke to me before the wedding. Because you reported to Victor, and because I was trying to maintain professional boundaries. His grip on her hand tightened. The wedding simply gave me an excuse to finally approach you, to see if there might be something worth exploring between us. Sophia stood at a crossroads. Trust this man who had shown her only respect and care, or pull back behind the walls that had protected her since Leo's departure. I need you to understand something, she said finally. Lily isn't just part of my life. She is my life. Anyone I let close has to accept that completely. Sophia, Nathan's expression became entirely soft. I adore Lily. Her magic tricks, her dragon fears, her endless questions. She is extraordinary, just like her mother. And the professional complications? We'll navigate them properly. Companies have policies for good reasons, and we'll follow them. A knock at the door brought Diana back, followed to Sophia's complete surprise by Lily herself, clutching her stuffed rabbit and looking anxious. She had left her with a neighbor, never intending to bring her, but Lily had been inconsolable when she heard that Mr. Magic Man was in the hospital. Mr. Nathan, does it hurt a lot? Lily asked carefully, approaching the bed. Less now that you're here, he said gently. I heard you brought me something special. Lily solemnly held out a homemade card covered in glitter and crayon drawings of dragons. It's magic, she whispered, to keep the dragons away while you sleep. As Nathan examined the card with exaggerated wonder, making Lily giggle with his enthusiastic praise, Sophia felt the last of her resistance quietly dissolve. Whatever complications lay ahead, the connection between the three of them felt too genuine to walk away from.